Hello, Flowcast fans. Sister Beth Murphy here to invite you to join us at Sacred Heart Convent for the Springfield Sisters Armchair Tour. This very special event is scheduled for 7 p.m. on Thursday, November 7th. It's an evening of storytelling and vision sharing that you do not want to miss. Hosted by the Ursuline Sisters, the Hospital Sisters of St. Francis, and my community, the Dominican Sisters of Springfield. Our three congregations have been transforming lives in Springfield since the Ursulines first arrived here in 1857. You might recall, at the same time, there was a certain country lawyer, Abe Lincoln by name, who had his shingle hung on the town square. If you are near enough to join us on Thursday, November 7th, please do. And please reserve your place by registering at springfieldop.org/events. That's our community website, Springfield OP, Order of Preachers.org/events. I hope to see you there. Welcome to Flowcast, a podcast from the Dominican Sisters of Springfield, Illinois. I'm Sister Beth Murphy, your host for this Flowcast episode. Challenges related to language learning for immigrant women often mean that they are among the last in their families to learn English. The Springfield Dominican Sisters have opened a new literacy center to meet the language learning needs of women, and we need volunteer tutors to join us. Today, Sister Katherine O'Connor and tutor-volunteer Tammy McCormick will talk together about the new center and the rewards of being in relationship with women passionate about learning English. Welcome, Sister Katherine and Tammy.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me.
It's so good to be with you. I would like each of you, if you wouldn't mind, to talk about your backgrounds a little bit. Let our listeners know who you are, and perhaps more importantly, what has prepared you for this new role as director of the New Literacy Center, or Tammy, in your case, as a volunteer tutor. Why don't you start, Sister Katherine?
All right. Well, my background has been in education. I've been a teacher and I've been an administrator. But I want to be clear, to be in the Literacy Center, you don't need to have a background in teaching. But for me, I guess what prepared me, I think just many years, almost over 50 years of being in ministry and just really having a really deep passion and desire to meet the needs of people. And so when our community decided that they were going to open a literacy center here in Springfield, I just finished a long time at SHG. I was in administration there for 18 years. So I had finished that, had a sabbatical last year. And then I was asked if I would consider working with Sister Ann Clennon on the Literacy Center here in Springfield. To say I was surprised is an understatement. It's something I had never, ever dreamed of doing. And I had to say there was a little bit of fear and hesitancy. My response was, well, I don't speak Spanish. And the person that was talking to me said, people aren't wanting to learn to speak Spanish. They want to learn to speak English. And I think you speak English. So anyway, I said yes. I really did want to respond to a need that we were having. And it's exciting to be opening this center here in Springfield. So that's about my background.
Yeah, and I think many of our listeners, anyone who's been associated with Sacred Heart Griffin, our high school, will know who you are and will know your passion and commitment to education. So that's a wonderful start. How about you, Tammy? Tell us a little bit about how you came to be a volunteer here and why you decided that was something you wanted to do.
Well, that's a very good question. I happened to be attending a diversity training program, and Sister Katherine was there, and she mentioned that they were in need of tutors to help women learn how to speak English. And my background is I am a technical trainer on computers, and that was a long time ago, though. So everything that's current, I'm not so great on. But a long time ago, I did a lot of teaching how to use applications, and I just enjoyed it. I got so much satisfaction out of helping others to learn whatever the task was. And I've been retired for quite some time. And when this opportunity presented itself, I thought, I've got to try this. And I'm so glad that I did.
Well, I'm glad you did too. And I think you've just pointed out something really important. You need a passion for what you're doing and a willingness to learn. And
Yes,
I think really that's all the tutors need.
correct. Very
Right.
much.
And I
Mhm.
agree with that because as a tutor, all you're trying to do is put yourself maybe in their position and you're trying to figure out, okay, how can I best help them to learn? So you really don't need a teaching or a training background. And there's lots of resources if you come into a situation where you're like, okay, I'm not quite getting this point across, so I need a little help. Sister Katherine has been a great resource, and she checks with the rest of the group and brings back information. So, again, you don't have to have that training or teacher background as long as you're just willing to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and help them to learn.
And it's really all about establishing a relationship with your student. The tutor and student have a really really great relationship. And although we have textbooks that we give the tutors that they can use, our tutors are so creative and just really are able to work with the students to say, what do you need? What do you want to learn? Because the students are on so many different levels. I mean, some of our students have been here for 20 years and they speak English, but they don't speak it in the way that they want to. And so for some of them, it's just really important to be able to have conversations with somebody who speaks English because that's not always within their normal experience. And so for some of the tutors, what they're doing is really just sharing conversations with their students.
Catherine, let's talk a little bit about because I want to give people as many opportunities as we possibly can to think about being a tutor at the Dominican Literacy Center. So, would you start by sharing what you require of a new tutor?
Okay, well, what's required is right now we have 2 sessions. They're required training sessions, and our upcoming ones are going to be on November 14th, which is a Thursday, and November 18th, which is a Tuesday, and each of them are for 3 hours. So that's about 6 hours of training, and then we also test the student, and the test is depending on what the ability of the student is. It's sometimes a conversation or a lack of conversation, pardon me, if the student really can't speak that much English. And then we find what materials we could give you to help you. And then you're required each week, you have to prepare for your lesson. You look at the materials and you see what would be helpful for you to be able to work with the students. So again, the most important thing, as you said, is that passion, that real desire to be able to work with someone. And as with most things that we do, I think the tutor gets more out of it sometimes than the student.
Mhm. I think you told me at one point, right, that you're looking for women tutors.
Yes, right now we only have women students and we have women tutors. And we have women students. That's how it started in Aurora. And so we've kind of continued with that. Sister Ann worked in Aurora for almost 20 years, I think. And so the reason is because the women usually get left out. The children go to school and they learn English at school. And then many times the husband goes to work and he learns English there. And so the woman is many times left at home and then can't speak English. And then the father and the kids can speak English and leave the mother out. So that's just really helpful for women to be able to do that, to learn English. And then also just we want it to be a safe environment for them. We don't know what their experience was of coming to our states. And so we just want it to be a safe environment. So then it's for women. We have women tutors and women students.
And that creates a comfortable environment for the women, a safe environment, as you say. And I think also you're looking for women who are 21 and over. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. So
Yes.
maybe, Tammy, you could tell us, what was it like for you to go through the tutor training? How did you experience that? And do you feel like it prepared you well to start tutoring your student?
Oh, yes. It was very nice because there was a group of us that were all wanting to be tutors. And Sister Catherine and Sister Ann did a wonderful job of presenting the materials as far as walking us through, like, how should we begin the process, what the process would be like. She talked about, like, things that we might have to, like, overcome with them. And so during those 6 hours of training, I felt very good about starting the process.
I think there's a lot of camaraderie among the tutors. And so they share ideas because actually, I don't know if we really emphasize, the classes are one-on-one. It's one student and a tutor, that's just one-on-one. But for the training, it's a group. And so I think then the tutors get to know one another too, and they can share ideas as the year goes on.
So you feel like, Tammy, that the training that you received prepared you well to start tutoring your student. How long have you been meeting with your student?
I have met with her for 3 weeks, and I do enjoy that it's one-on-one because my particular student was starting with really no English background. So we started with the ABCs, how to pronounce them, the very basics. But what I enjoy is that she is so excited to learn. And she's really working hard in between the weeks that we meet. And she is, watching YouTube videos. She has a friend in Mexico that is learning English, and so they compare notes and practice with each other. And she's just being very creative on how she can get the most out of this class from week to week. And I'm just so proud of her when she comes in, and the things that we worked on, phrases that we worked on for that week, she'll come in the next week and she'll be using those and she'll be saying them, really well. And I just get so excited for her. And we just spend time. I try to reinforce everything with her, and I find myself telling her, great job, because I'm so impressed with how quickly she's coming along.
That is wonderful. So it sounds like it is really rewarding for you.
Oh, it's
And
absolutely.
and that's important for volunteers to know, because you don't want to volunteer someplace where you don't feel like you're making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important to remember that you're making the difference in the life of a family.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Not just the life of one person. And I think, Catherine, you mentioned kind of sideways that we have a literacy center in Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
We have that one and one in Melrose Park. Do you want to talk a little bit about those centers and how long they've existed and sort of what's going on up there?
Sure. The one in Aurora has existed for about 30 years. In fact, Sister Kathleen Ryan, who was really the foundress of that, just stepped down from doing it. And now it's actually, the director of that is now a layperson. And I'm sure they've served thousands of women over the years. Aurora has a very large population of people who speak Spanish, although they have served, I don't know how many different countries. And that's something we want to be clear about in Springfield too. It's not just Spanish speaking. It's people of any different language that wants to learn to speak English. So that's how they started. And then in Melrose Park. They were in Logan Square in Chicago for a while, and then they moved to Melrose Park. And they also serve people. Now, I think they do serve women and men, which is unique compared to that center and our center. But actually, Sister Beth did some little research on getting ready for this, and she discovered that this is really not new in our congregation, that it was really in 1879 that two of our sisters went to Aruma because there were German sisters, adorers of the precious blood, who had come here to the States to work with a German settlement in Ruma. And so two of our sisters that way back in 1879 went to Ruma. And so they were also doing a Dominican literacy, although we didn't call it that in those days. But yes, but it's kind of exciting to see, that it goes way back there.
It does. I think that's a really, really fun story. And it has really been, for me, kind of whenever I see one of the Sisters of the Adorers of the Precious Blood, I always say, we're like cousins. We've been at this together for a really long time. And it creates a great feeling between those sisters and our own. I had the privilege of talking to a woman who lives in Aurora and whose mother went through the Aurora Literacy Center. Mm-hmm. And she told me that alone, her mother's English language learning when they came as immigrants under very difficult circumstances, changed the entire trajectory of her family story.
I believe that.
It enabled her mother to find a well-paying job that enabled her to support the family. And from then, they just blossomed. Mm-hmm. And that really is, I think, one of the main goals of the center. We have a friend who wrote a book about the experience of the women at the Aurora Literacy Center. So if people want to hear inspiring stories, they need to read We Are Eagles. And I'll make sure that there's a link to resources about how you can get that book in the show notes with this podcast. I was in tears reading one story after another of the way people's lives have been changed by English language learning. Mm-hmm. It's very satisfying and quite inspirational,
That's great.
So I've asked Tammy to speak a little bit about her relationship with her student and how that's going. But from your perspective, Sister Katherine, what's it look like at the Literacy Center these days? How many students and tutors do you have working?
Okay. Well, actually, we've had 17 students and 17 tutors, and we've had some students who, for various reasons, weren't able to come, and then somebody else came. So we've maintained this 17, even though they're not the same 17. And it was really nice because the tutors were very disappointed when their student couldn't come. And so I was just grateful that we could find another student who wanted to work with them. And actually, we had a pilot program in the spring. It was for 8 weeks. It was in April and May. And so I'm grateful that I had that experience of being a tutor because I feel like I can be more of a resource and a help to the tutors because I've been through it. And it's just amazing. And to see how sincere and how hard the women work in order to learn English. It's a difficult language to learn. And many of them right now are working on contractions and how hard they are, that we just take them for granted. But for people learning our language, that can be difficult.
I've always said that. I think English is one of the hardest languages to learn, and I admire anyone who can do it. So, Katherine, what was that like for you I didn't realize you did that pilot program. What were some of your takeaway lessons from that experience of actually tutoring someone yourself?
Okay, well, one of the takeaways and actually I'm really grateful to Sister Ann Clennon, because she's done it before. And so, she kept saying, you think it's boring. You think it's boring to keep repeating things, but it's not boring to the students. That's the way they're going to learn. You have to keep repeating and keep repeating. And, you do that when you're teaching primary grades and you don't even think about it that much, but for the students. And so I think that was something I really saw that really is true. It was so helpful because you repeat, and then the third time maybe they really get it and they can do it themselves. So that's one of the ways that you really have to be patient. The student and the tutor have to be patient. That it's a slow process, and it will develop. It'll happen, but you have to be patient with it.
Yes, and that's the value. It's not boring. It is
No.
the value of one-on-one teaching.
Yes.
In a classroom with a lot of people, or heaven forbid, with one of those computerized programs, it does not
Mhm.
work the same way.
No.
So the relationship that you're building
Hmm.
and the individualized instruction that you're giving are all a part of why this is such a valuable way to learn, I think. If someone wants to be a volunteer tutor, how do they sign up for those training sessions in November?
Okay, well, they can just call me or text me and give me their name, and then we'll be in touch with them closer to the time that when they're starting. And we're using my cell, and it's 217-415-8377. So you can probably put it as a link on this, maybe, huh?
I absolutely can. It'll be in the show
Okay.
notes, and all people have
Okay,
to do is
that's
click
good.
on that from their cell phone, and they can reach
Yeah,
you
just
immediately.
let me know, and then we'll keep in touch with them as we come to the training.
This show is going to drop late in October, and I think your first tutor training session is November 14th.
Correct.
So is there a limit to the number of volunteer tutors that you can take in a training session, or can you just take anybody who comes?
I think at this point we could probably take anyone that comes. I mean, because we can always move to another space. We could probably move to DePore Center, or see if we could use Aquinas Center at the Mother House if we had to. I mean, that would probably be an amazing dream come true. But
Wouldn't that
uh,
be great?
yes, right, right. And then at the same time, we're going to be recruiting students. And so we're hoping if people know someone who wants to learn to speak English, again, as I said, even if they already speak English, but they have a particular thing that they want to work on. Like some people are saying, well, I speak English, but I'm just not sure I'm saying words correctly. And so they want to work on that. Some say, oh, yeah, I can speak English, but I'd like to learn to write it better. So, we take any different level that people are at.
Mhm.
So if people know someone that wants to learn English at whatever level, again, they can just contact me and we will keep them in mind. Our classes will be starting in January.
Okay, so any tutors that are being trained in November will not start with a student until January.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
and let's think about where our listeners might actually encounter people who could use the resources. Maybe there's someone that they work with, or
Right.
maybe there's someone that they encounter in a shop that they frequent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a parishioner that they know in their
Yes.
parish or in their church, um,
Mm-hmm.
who they think could benefit from these classes. They should absolutely feel free to invite those people to
Correct.
consider joining the Literacy Center at 1237 West Monroe. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we can also offer this, and maybe this is a good idea. We've created a poster that Sister Katherine, I think you're going to put in some of the Catholic parishes around Springfield. But there is no reason that I can't put that also in the show notes for this program. And
Yes.
if people work in a place where they think people might be interested, or again, have a church community where they think it would be helpful, you can just print that poster out and put it up
Yeah.
in your church, in your shop that you own or where you work. That would be a tremendous help to spreading the word about the Literacy
Mm-hmm.
Center, wouldn't it? Okay, so we'll
Mm-hmm.
make sure that ends up in the show notes too.
Could I add one thing for people who are maybe thinking about being a tutor? Um, you don't have to have, as Sister Catherine said, a Spanish background at all. I use Google Translate to communicate to my student what I'm trying to say as far as directions for her. And that works out fine. And actually, by the third time of meeting, she was comfortable with hearing English directions like circle this or repeat after me. And but in the beginning, and you don't even have to use Google Translate, there's other free apps out there, but it's a way of making that connection
Mhm.
so you don't have to actually think about, okay, I don't know any Spanish. How am I going to do this? And the last thing that I want to say for anybody considering it is that it just makes your heart happy. You know, it's an hour and a half a week, plus there is some prep time for it. But I walk away from there and I'm just happy that I was able to help.
It's very fulfilling.
It is.
It's an easy volunteer commitment because you know that it's going to be the same time every week. How long
Mhm.
is the commitment? How long should the tutors be planning on following one student?
Okay. Well, the students, we don't keep students, at least the tradition has been that students can't be with us for more than 3 years. Um, so probably we would do the same. And for like this first semester, if you want to call it that, we started in September and we're going to finish the middle of December. And then we're going to start again in January and we're going to finish in May.
Okay, so it's like 2 semester blocks. It's not year round.
Right. We
And then
take a break for December and beginning of January.
that's good. People need that time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
who makes the decision about whether the student continues? Is that the student's decision?
It's both and. It would be the student, and then we would say, I mean, can we service them anymore? Do you know, can we continue to meet their needs? That's what it would be, I think. Yes.
Wonderful. And I think I heard via the community grapevine, Catherine, that there are plans actually at some time in the future to do citizenship test preparation classes
Correct.
as
Sister
well.
Ann will be doing that. Yes, we are going to do a citizenship, and they've done that in Aurora. And I think it's almost like a 98% passing of the people that have gone through their program that they passed their citizenship tests. So yes.
Any word yet on when that'll start, or is that
No, I
still
don't know
unknown?
yet. You know, because Sister Ann has been gone, and when she comes back, we'll be talking about things like that again. So
And
yeah.
do I understand correctly that the citizenship test preparation classes will be open to women and men?
Correct. And it's not individual, it's a group. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's another thing that our listeners can spread the word about. And once we know when they're starting, we'll get that information out
Correct.
to
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
Right. Thank you both. Sister Katherine O'Connor and Tammy McCormick have been our guests, and I've learned a few things about the new Literacy Center in Springfield. It's a very exciting new venture. We're looking for volunteer women tutors, 21 years old and over, who want to volunteer to change the life of not just one person, but whole families by teaching
Hmm.
English language to new language learners at our Literacy Center on the grounds of Sacred Heart Convent. The actual address of the building is 1301. It's the ranch style brick building that sits at the entrance of our Mother House grounds when you come into the property on Monroe Street. And it's a beautiful space to learn
Yeah, it
and to
is.
spend time.
Yes.
So I hope that all of our local area listeners, in any case, will consider volunteering. And if any of you happen to be in the Chicagoland area and would be interested in volunteering at either the Melrose Park or the Aurora Literacy Centers, if you contact Sister Katherine O'Connor, she knows somebody and can put
That's
you in
right.
touch with the right person. So let's not limit this to volunteers in Springfield, Illinois only. There's
Right.
of
That's
plenty of
great.
volunteer work to go around in both the northern and central parts of the state.
That's right. Thank you.
Did I forget anything? Do either one of you want to add anything else before I take us out of here with a close?
No, I just want to say what a wonderful tutor Tammy is, and her student is very, very responsive, and I think that has a lot to do with Tammy because she's so energetic and is so creative and continues to look for ways that she can really help �𝐬𝐧𝐠. So,
Oh,
yeah,
well, I thank you for those kind words.
Wonderful. Sister Katherine, do you want to give us your cell phone number one more time before I close out?
Okay, 217-415-8377.
Okay, write that down. Text or call Sister Katherine as soon as you're aware that you want to be a tutor at the Dominican Literacy Center in Springfield, and show up for the 2-3 hour training sessions in November and get ready for a wild adventure when you start teaching in January. What a wonderful opportunity for
That's right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks to both of you. And thanks to all of our Flowcast listeners. This is Flowcast, a podcast from the Dominican Sisters of Springfield. The flow in Flowcast is an acronym. It stands for the life of the world, because we Dominican sisters and all of our associates and partners know that we are following in the footsteps of Jesus, who came to give his life for the life of the world. Thank you for listening. On behalf of our Flowcast team, Brandon Durham, Jean Ann Miller, and myself, thank you for listening. Tell your friends about Flowcast, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.